But anyway, my name is Corey Ball. I'm the lead pastor at Redemption Community Church. And if you're watching this on our YouTube or social media later on, we just want to say welcome. Thanks for checking out our content. And this class is going to be really good. This is designed to help you with your finances, and specifically just the basics, the basic personal finances. I think often one of the things that my wife and I have run up against when it comes to financial advice is that anyone who is equipped to give you financial advice and is wanting to give you financial advice often is also wanting to manage your stocks, and things like that. And so there kind of is this niche where it's like, hey, there's a lot of information on the internet when it comes to how to budget and how to have personal finances and things like that. But what do I trust, and how do I kind of go about that? So we, especially early on in our marriage, we had a hard time kind of finding that because we didn't have the best, not that we had bad financial role models, but we didn't have the best financial role models growing up. And like we said last week in one of our sermons, we said it's hard sometimes to look into the checkbook or the bank account of your parents because they don't necessarily show you that, and so sometimes it's difficult to figure that out then as an adult. And so this class is going to help you out with that. We just want to extend an invite. If you ever have any questions about God or Jesus, we want to help you with that. And so you can always go to our website at redemptionstl.com because we want to connect with you and just help you along in your spiritual journey. Okay. Well, this is Lucas Donnelly, and he's a regular attender at Redemption Community Church, and he's going to be running this class for the next 3 weeks. So this is part 1 of Personal Finance 101. Lucas, take it away.
Great. Thanks, Corey, and thanks everyone for joining. I'm excited to be here. Just a very quick background on myself. So like Corey said, I'm Lucas Donnelly. I'm currently the managing director at DreamPact Ventures. So we are a venture capital firm investing in early stage startups. But even before that, I was a analyst and worked in the executive suite at JP Morgan, where we worked with some of the wealthiest clients in the world, which is where I really kind of gained this passion for personal finance. But it even goes before that. So in high school and college, these were always areas that I was really interested in. So I'm excited to get to share some of the kind of foundations of personal finance with you. And just to kind of lay the stage for the next 3 weeks, today I want to speak in very basic terms, so we can just have a foundation for what we're going to talk about in future weeks, and then as you continue your journey. So if you don't know the terms, that's totally fine. We're going to try to define them, and if I don't define them well enough, if you have additional questions, please ask in the chat. So Corey is going to be watching the chats if you have questions as we go on. But that's really the goal for today, is like, let's set a framework for how we look at personal finances. And today it's going to be looking at your finances the same way any good business does. So I will admit, money can totally be stressful. I literally searched "money is stressful," and these were the top 4 headlines. Americans more stressed about money than work or relationships. Number 1 reason Americans are so stressed out: your money. Worried about your retirement savings. You're not alone. And when you look at the predominant sources of stress in an American household, the biggest one happened to be money. And within that category, which far outpaced people's personal relationships and their work relationships and just their relationship with their work, it was things like rising cost of healthcare. It costs way more to go get this procedure done, or just my monthly normal healthcare expenses, or I don't have enough saved up for a financial emergency, which most American families don't. It's a big insight that I got from my time at JP Morgan Chase, that very few American families have enough money to pay off an unforeseen medical expense. And I'm here to hopefully help you think through that and have you in the minority, the group that has enough saved up and is able to weather that type of storm. Also, things like unplanned health emergencies, worried about how much income they make, how much they have saved up, how much they have in debt. It's really stressful. It's a big deal to a lot of families. It's on your minds all the time. And it's in the Bible all the time too. All throughout the Bible, from the beginning to the end, you see so many verses about money, about how to deal with money, about what God thinks about money, about bad examples of people who spend money too much. This is a big deal, and it's a timeless issue. So with a little bit of discipline, and I'll say a lot of grace, I can speak from experience that that's been, God has really helped me rethink the way I look about money, and even develop the type of disciplines needed to approach money and look at money in the right way. Money does not have to be stressful. It doesn't. I know it feels like something that's just never going to go away, this worry about your finances, but again, with discipline and grace, it doesn't have to be. So for the next 3 weeks, here's the plan. Today, we're going to be looking at your finances as a business. Your family, or just you individually, are, the Donnelly family company, or the bond company. Actually, there is a bond company in real life. But all the best businesses, really all businesses, have to report in a certain sort of way. They look at their finances a certain way, and we're going to look at that from an individual level. So once we kind of lay that foundation and define those key terms and think about these key principles, then we're going to talk about how you build a good budget that doesn't stress you out, that doesn't make you feel like a slave, that doesn't make you spend more time per week planning your budget than you actually do out in the wild. We don't want that. We're going to build a good budget together. And then lastly, we're going to talk about the confusing world of credit. This is probably the top question I have people reach out to me about, is how they improve their credit score, which, how to get a mortgage, what credit card they should apply for. We're going to talk about that, demystify it a little bit, and see what it looks like to be a really worthy borrower. And if you're in the position where you don't have a good credit score, we're going to find ways to improve that over time. So that's the game plan. Let's kick off with week 1. So the key point I want to get across here is your family is just like a business, and I'm going to name off 3 key terms. These all put together what we call a financial statement. And I'm an investor. Anytime I invest in a company, I look at these 3 pieces of the financial statement. So number 1, balance sheet. So a balance sheet consists of all that you have, all of your assets, and all that you owe. Okay, super simple. And we're going to go into that a little bit on the next slide. But we're gonna talk about how you put that together, and then it's a simple formula that we're going to review to define your net worth. Number 2 is a profit and loss statement. So another very simple formula: all of your income minus all of your expenses, and then whatever's left over. And then lastly, all businesses are very focused on their cash flow statement, which is another pretty easy way to look at it. Is how much did I end the month with? How much cash was in my bank account at the end of last month? And how much do I have at the end of this month? It's a simple formula, but there's a lot going on in coming in and coming out of those accounts that we're going to address. And what I think is important is that every good business looks at it this way. And my recommendation is that you look at it the same way, even though you're an individual. So let's kick off with a balance sheet. Like I said, a balance sheet consists of your assets and your liabilities. So your assets are anything from how much cash you have in your bank accounts, any investments that you have at Charles Schwab or Vanguard or wherever you have them, Robinhood, your retirement accounts, so your 401k, whatever your work has planned for you, 529 plans. If you're a parent and you're saving for your kids' college, you might have a 529 plan. Your house is an asset. We're going to talk about the liability part in the mortgage, but the value of your home is an asset, where also vehicles, investment properties, jewelry, all these sort of things that you own is what you can call an asset. And liabilities are all the things that you owe. So you own assets, you owe liabilities. And liabilities are your mortgage, your credit card debt, your auto loans, student loans, all that stuff that stresses you out at the end of the month because you have a payment for, that's a liability. And if you want to determine your net worth, all you do is take your assets and subtract your liabilities. And um, it's unfortunate, but it's possible to be negative. And me coming out of college, I had so many student loans and I didn't have very many assets at all. So my net worth was negative. And that's okay. So if you find yourself in that spot, um, all that I ask is that we find out that you're in that spot so we can work from there. And what I hope that you can do this week, so this is homework that you don't share with your classmates because this is very personal. If you click the link, so Corey's going to be sending out this PDF just so you can interact with this presentation, look back on some slides. I built using some Excel templates a net worth calculator that you can go in and plug in your cash, your investments, all those sorts of things, and determine your net worth. And I highly recommend you go back and review those things over time. It's really helpful to think through. So just a reminder, if you guys have any questions, we're watching the Q&A box. So please let me know if I should slow down or define the topic any better. Okay, the profit and loss statement. In the business world, we call it a P&L. So like I said, it consists of your income, anything like your salary, your interest from your checking or savings account, any investment income that you have. Maybe you have a side hustle, you do photography, you babysit, whatever that might be, that's your income. Anything that's a plus in your bank account is considered your income for the month, at the risk of sounding too simple. And then your expenses are twofold. So you have fixed expenses, so your mortgage or your rent, your auto loan payment, student loan payment, all the things that are the same every single month, come rain, come shine, those are your fixed expenses. And this is a really important concept for us to get, because your fixed expenses are a big deal. And then you have your variable expenses. That's your food, entertainment, travel. Even if you have kind of a relatively even expense, you buy the same amount of food every month or whatever, it's considered variable, because if you needed to, you could cut that down, so that differentiation is really important as we go through this course. And the very simple formula to determine your net income is just your income minus your expenses for the month. So here's a pro tip. I have not gone through my bank account statement honestly ever. I'm a digital native, so I use technology all the time, and I use Clarity Money. So you'll have a link there, but Clarity Money is a great resource that you just connect all your bank accounts, you connect all your investment accounts, all your student loans, all your debt, and it just does all this for you. So instead of you going line item by line item saying I spent $10 at Amazon, what did I buy at Amazon? How do I categorize that? I don't want this to be stressful for you to think about money. So please leverage technology to do all the heavy lifting for you. Mint is another really popular resource that you can rely on that does a lot of the same stuff. And I've been using these for years. So I can look back to even when I was in college, how much I was spending, how much that has increased or decreased or whatever. So highly recommend that as you build your family P&L. And then lastly is your cash flow. And cash flow, like I said, is pretty simple. All it is how you ended last month, what your cash balance was in your checking account versus what it was at the end of the month. But there's a lot going on at the same time where you can really use your P&L, your profit and loss statement to help you, which is, okay, let's say you had $1,000 to end last month in your bank account, and then you ended this month with $500. Wow, I spent $500. Where did that go? So it's really important to look at how you ended last month, where you are today, and then take a look at your P&L so you can diagnose the issue. Maybe you spent too much money going out to eat with friends, or maybe your student loans are starting to kick in after graduating. These are the big things that'll start affecting your cash flow and will have a big impact on your family. So it's really good to diagnose the issue. And then I wanted to provide some principles here as we start the money journey that have been at least helpful for me. I tried to think about, you know, what I was going through when I was just starting to get into personal finance, when I got a job and started making an income, and then obviously the expenses that come along with that. One principle I think is really important is this quote I heard, not related to money, but I feel like is really appropriate. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, right? If you want to see something growing in your front yard, you should have planted it a whole long time ago. And I know some of you might feel that way in terms of your personal finances. Like, man, you've made so many mistakes. You've just never really gotten on the road to starting a budget, to looking at your finances other than spending exactly what you make. But the next best time to plant a tree is today, is right now. So no matter what you've been through, mistakes you've made, ways that you've looked at things in the past, um, I'm here to help. We at Redemption know that this is a very important matter, and we want to help you on this journey. So it starts today. The second thing is that we measure what matters. So um, I didn't think this way in the past, but whatever you think is very important to you is something that you're going to start tracking. You know, we just had a baby. She's 3 months old, and we check all the time. What are the milestones she needs to be hitting now that she's 3 months old? What were they at 2 months? What's she going to be experiencing at 4 months? We care about her so much that we track these things. We look at her weight and her height and these sorts of things. And you can look at your finances the same way. So once you determine that this is important to you, that this is a journey that you want to go on to own your finances in a different way, it's pretty amazing to see what happens once you start measuring progress. Because imagine, you know, in that cash flow example where you ended last month with 1,000, you started this coming month with 500. What happens when next month you go from 500 to 750? What happens when you go from 750 to 1,000 and you start building up that savings? And it's just amazing to look back on, to see all that progress and how that's happened. The third principle is probably the most simple principle. It sounds so simple that it's dumb to mention, but please hear me here. Spend less than you earn. There are so many Americans. I saw the data when I was at JP Morgan Chase. So many Americans finance their lives with credit cards, with other forms of debt, spending down their savings. They spend less, they spend more than they earn. So as a simple principle, it's so important for you to do that math, figure out your P&L, what's coming in every month, and working through your expenses to determine how you can be a net saver, that you're saving more and more, little by little, each month. The next principle, which is very related to that, is minimize your fixed expenses. So what did I say the definition of fixed expenses are? Those are the expenses that you have come rain, come shine. Your mortgage, your car payments, the things that don't go up and down. So using that example of someone let's just say someone makes $5,000 a month and they have a $1,000 mortgage and a $5,000 or a $500 car payment, and nothing else. That means they have $3,500 left over in variable expenses that you can either save or you can spend. So the lower your fixed expenses are, the more you're going to be able to really work with and make progress much quicker. So I'm talking to the types of people that have a really expensive apartment. You know, maybe they make $5,000 a month, but they have a $2,500 apartment. That's not super common in St. Louis. Maybe a $2,500 home, and you have a nice car that's a $500 car payment and $100 in insurance, and you have utilities for your big house, and then by the end of the month, all of your fixed expenses have spent all the money that you've made. So the lower you're able to live to determine your lifestyle in terms of fixed expenses, the easier this is going to be for you to really experience freedom down the road. So point number 5, cash is king. That's something we say in business all the time. How much cash do you have in your account? And is that increasing or decreasing? So before I want to have this conversation with you all about how you invest your money, or saving for a big purchase, or paying down student loans, any of those sorts of things, paying down in an aggressive manner. You got to pay your loans every month. It's very important for your family and for your mind to have 3 to 6 months of expenses in your savings account. Meaning, if something goes wrong, if I have a medical expense that 60% of Americans are already stressed out about, if I have a big purchase that needs to happen, something happens to your home, whatever, you have that saved up on the spot. You can take it out of your account tomorrow. For some of you, 3 to 6 months just sounds insane for you to have saved up. You've never had that much in savings, but believe me, if you diagnose the problem, if you start looking at your finances the same way businesses do, if you start measuring what matters, tracking these things over time, using technology to help you do that, you will be amazed at how quickly you're able to build this up and build a nice nest egg that, man, believe me, coming out of school, that was one of the first things I did. Now having that security that you're able to have something go wrong and you're going to be okay, you don't need to scramble and panic to find the money, will give you so much security and help you be confident as you move on to freedom. And then lastly, let me just be very clear that this is the last point that I brought up, is start investing. So once you've determined your goals, we've determined that we're going to plant this tree. We're measuring those goals. We're spending less than we earn. We've already minimized our fixed expenses and we have cash saved up. Then start investing. Once your savings and your debt are taken care of, compound interest is an amazing thing. Once you start seeing the snowball effect of your money, whether it's for your retirement, which I see a lot of people not saving enough money for their retirement, and that comes back to bite them in the future, or just leaving something for your children, for your family. Investing is the way to do that, not just keeping it in cash, which is, when I was working at JP Morgan, we worked with some of the wealthiest people in the world who got that message very early on. They started saving at a very young age, and they were in the position they were in because they spent less than they earned and they invested what they had saved. So that's the intro. That's week 1. Hopefully this is helpful in just kind of determining the key terms we're going to be working with. The way that I recommend you look at your finances, just like a good business would. And there are a lot of things that can help do this for you. So I highly recommend, I ask that before we start next week, you're able to use that spreadsheet that I have attached in this presentation to build your balance sheet, determine what your net worth is, and then use something like Mint, like Clarity. There are tons of other technologies out there, and reach out to me if you have questions of these sorts of things to figure out your profit and loss. How much are you spending each month? Where are you spending that money? Please do not take the time to classify your expenses yourself. There's way better ways to spend your time, and these websites will do it for you securely. So
Luke,
you're gonna go. Yeah, go ahead, Corey.
So check the chat because you have host, which means that I don't think I can see any type of private chat. So there may be some questions. The other thing is, because you have host, I think only you can share the file. So
Okay.
see if you can just drag it over into the chat there. I want to make sure that everyone gets that because it's a great file.
Yeah, so I'm not seeing the ability to share the file, but Corey, is there a way to send this to everyone that's on the
Yes.
call?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I believe so. I can screenshot everyone that I see here. There is a Galaxy S8 Plus that I don't know. So if you are Galaxy S8 Plus and you want to make sure that you get this file, just shoot us an email at hello@redemptionstl.com and we'll make sure that you get the file. Also, we will put this in as a link in YouTube underneath the video, and so just scroll down there and you'll be able to see that in the
Okay, great. I did get a question here on the P&L, the profit and loss. What happens if you're in a position where you're spending more than you earn? What do I do? So going back to the profit and loss slide, um, I know that's a very difficult position to be in. There have been some months where I found myself in that position. The first thing that I recommend is to do exactly what we're talking about today. Diagnose the issue. So apparently you know that you're spending more than you make because you're seeing your bank account decrease each month. But once you are able to classify where all this money is going, then we can put a plan in place. So maybe your rent is too much. You're living in a very nice apartment. Um, you know, you drive a really nice car. You're still paying off your student loans. That's a pretty difficult decision because these are things that are fixed. So I hope that that's a situation that we can talk through and find ways out of there. But most of the time, honestly, it's variable expenses. You eat out too much. That was my issue. I lived in New York City. There's so many good restaurants. Um, I ate out all the time and would look at my bank account and be like, wow, I ate too nicely. So these are the types of things that you can do, diagnose the issue, and almost always it's a function of minimizing your expenses. There are ways to increase your salary, to find side hustles, to do other things, but almost always it's a function of how do I decrease my variable expenses, and get it in a better place. So hopefully that's helpful, but please reach out to me if you want to talk more in depth. Anything else coming in, Corey?
Nope.
I don't
I
see
don't
any.
I don't think so.
Okay, awesome. Well, I just wanted to give a shameless plug for weeks 2 and week 3. For weeks 2 and 3, sorry. So next week, now that we've kind of defined our terms and talked about the key ways that we should be looking at our family finances, or your personal finances, we're going to talk about how you actually make an effective budget. And I'm not going to get up in your business and build this super detailed analysis. You can do that. If you're the type of person that likes getting in the weeds and thinking through each line item by line item of your expenses, we'll go there. But what I have mostly on my mind is how I can build an effective budget that makes me not stressed out all the time. Okay, so that's the goal. And then the last week, week 3, we're going to talk about credit scores, answer questions like, what does a credit score consist of? It's a total black box, and sometimes it's really stressful when you don't know what's affecting your score. We're going to talk about how you improve your score, what it looks like, what the metrics are that will have the biggest impact on your credit score. And then lastly, we're going to talk about credit cards. There's a lot of opposing, there's a lot of controversy around this space. So we're going to talk about the right way to look at credit cards, if you need one, if you should have one at all, and if you can handle one, how to treat it. So that's the plan for next week and the week after. I'm excited to dig into this. I'm a total nerd about this stuff, so half the time my friends are just calling me to talk about this. So I'm excited to continue the conversation. Hopefully this was helpful for you this week, and excited to continue digging in.
That was great. Thanks so much, Lucas. Again, join us next week. We're going to be doing it on Wednesday night. Is that correct?
That's right, Wednesday night. I am leaving on an epic vacation around the country, a road trip, and Wednesday I'll be dialing in from, I think, Kansas City. It's night one. So I'm looking forward to seeing you all there.
So Wednesday night, 8 o'clock, and it'll be here. Craig Bodenschott says, thank you, Lucas, and we all say thank you as well. And so we're excited about that. But week 2, make sure you're there. Again, we'd love to see you in service at Redemption. And so if you are not, if you're watching this during COVID, then it's going to be online. And so our services are Saturday night at 5 o'clock and then Sunday night at 9 a.m. And we'd love to see you on our Facebook page. And so you can check us out there. All right. We'll see you all later. See you Wednesday, right?
Awesome. Yep.
All right.
See you then. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, man.